We've been soaking up this California sunshine all week, networking and learning together. It's been great, hasn't it? How do y'all feel? All right. Thank you to the D2L team for all your hard work and dedication in creating this successful conference and a space for us to come together. But before we disperse and go back to our own corners of the globe, we have something else to do. Today, I am on a mission, and you're all coming with me. And on this mission, we have a problem to solve. Our education system is not effectively reflecting and serving every learner. We've heard this before, right? This is something that many of us think about. I know many of your workplaces are invested in making sure that programs and spaces are diverse, equitable, inclusive. This is familiar language. In my short time devoted to this problem, though, I've noticed something that I don't hear many people talking about. There are very important people missing at the leadership level. People whose voices are critical to serve the learners who are being left behind. Today, we'll be talking about this crucial topic. Who's missing from your leadership circle? It's a big task, but I know that we have all the tools we need. So let's get to work, shall we? Before we get started, my name is Kiara Williams. I am a proud graduate of Georgia State University, the real GSU, class of 2021, go Thurs. I am a student of life, I'm a student of love, and a student of advocacy, forever and ever learning and growing. In my young career, I have worked with companies, schools, and organizations, and my work has specialized in mentorship, expression, leadership, guidance. But it's all human work and all very personal. Although I am still new within my own leadership journey, I've noticed some commonalities in my experiences. I've been to a few convenings around education, digital learning, educational technology, and during my time in these spaces, I've heard the audience get asked really common questions. What impact did this have on learners? How can we best serve our learners? How did the learners feel about this initiative or this decision? Here I am, curious to see the answer because this might be a little obvious. I am not that far from my time as a student. And these leaders whipped out numbers to show their findings. Now, many of us love research and love data. I include myself in that group. My very first job was a math instructor, so trust me, I get it. Numbers definitely tell a story. They're valuable, and they're often really necessary as part of program development and decision-making process. But while I recognize that data points can tell us something, I'm a firm believer that they can't tell us everything. I felt like something was missing. I asked myself, first silently, did anyone ask the learners directly? And then I found myself speaking out loud, reminding everyone that what we do ultimately is to serve the learners. And then I asked my question out loud. Did anyone ask the learners directly? These leaders had questions that could have been answered had the learners been in the room. Yeah, the missing demographic in leadership circles is learners, but also young people. One of my most telling experiences was during my time at Apple, peak pandemic. Y'all remember the early months of 2020 when we couldn't leave our homes, Before we knew much about the pandemic, the virus, hospital rooms were overflowing, nature was healing. Life is definitely a roller coaster. 2020 had a lot of weird and broken tracks. During this time, I was living the dream, huddled in a corner of my family's living room, taking back-to-back tech support calls from around the world. Some would call me just an iOS tech advisor, but I'd like to think I was one good performance review away from being the next Apple CEO. I was able to partake in a career leadership experience as an Apple team manager. That role put me in rooms, Zoom rooms, that I never thought I'd be in, doing work I never imagined doing. Community work, inclusion work, leadership work, creating, guiding. It was exciting on so many levels. During a time when so much in the world felt uncertain, I was happy to have the opportunity to grow and learn in areas that mattered so much to me. So imagine me sitting down in front of my computer, peak chapter pink. I would join these meetings and calls, some mandatory, some optional. I would look at the attendees, the people speaking, the leaders, and the feeling that popped up for me, surprisingly, was discouragement. People were talking, exchanging ideas, shaping and sharing initiatives, making decisions, and I was not a part of that process. I don't have all the words to describe how I knew this, but I didn't really feel welcome to speak up. It seemed like my role, my presence, served a different purpose than I expected. My heart definitely starts racing now at the memory of it, and it was definitely racing then at the thought of me contributing. Have you ever been in a space where you felt that way? Why did I hold back? I held back because I felt like there was no true invitation or opportunity for me to do so, to contribute. I couldn't help but to remember back to my childhood and the role I held in my family. We all have our roles. My role was to be a child, to let the adults speak. I remember being told by family members to quiet down because this was adult business. For most of my life, that's all I had known. There was no one to say, feel free to speak up. We value your thoughts here, or you belong here. It was really eye-opening, and I navigated my way through those moments. Sometimes I just did it scared, and I used that lesson and many others to fuel my passion, which is to ensure that the voices of young people are heard when and where it matters the most. Most of us in this room are immersed in the digital learning space or the general education realm. But if we take a step back and look at the wider world, we can see evidence of problems that can arise when leadership doesn't fully reflect or represent the people it serves. Although the news and headlines can be slightly depressing at times, I do enjoy remain healthily connected to the world. Thank you, Twitter. Thank you, Threads. Thank you, Mastodon. Have y'all heard of Mastodon? Yeah, the director of SUNY Online Teaching taught me about Mastodon. Thank you to her. I like to remain connected with music, TV, film, history, politics, the most joyful realm of them all. I look at history and politics and the leaders that have served our country, our beautifully diverse populations, and there tends to be a trend. This is how we are defining diversity. We talk so much on race, on gender, on ethnicity, but age diversity is very often missing from that mix. We can't afford to ignore that. A recent Gallup report on the millennial generation revealed that millennials will represent 75% of the global workforce by 2025. That's just 2 years away. Just 57% of millennials are satisfied with their pay. Have you all noticed the skyrocketing cost of living and the effects of inflation? Because we definitely have. Just 29% of millennials are engaged at work. 29%. Fortunately, I'm still part of that small percent that has the energy to work towards a solution. I'm not willing to stand by idly if there's a way to make a positive difference. We can't continue building levels and supporting new students on limited foundation, on foundations initially created for a certain type of student, with decisions being made by a very small and selective group of individuals. We need to design with everyone in mind, all the diverse populations. I recently got a boost of unexpected inspiration. A little less than 3 weeks ago, I took my dream trip to Barcelona. And while I was there, I visited a museum. And just a forewarning, it took me, how old am I? Not very old. It took me this long to develop my Spanish speaking skills. I get to Spain, they speak Castellano, so it just all went out the window. So excuse me if I butcher the museum's name. It is the Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Barcelona. One of the first few exhibits that I saw shifted something within me. I came across it completely organically, a corner full of pictures and videos of children aged 4 through 8. They were from all different backgrounds. They were speaking to a megaphone. They were making signs. They were protesting. How many 4 to 8-year-olds have you ever seen doing this? As an American woman, a Black American woman, this was unlike anything I've seen before. These children had been offered a training in a series of workshops that they call activisme. At that moment, I saw children advocating and speaking. That fresh and invigorating energy. Those children were participating in something that society often deems an adult action. Imagine protesters, the ones across the street, except kind of half their height and like a quarter of their age. They were yelling and telling people what mattered to them. They were communicating out loud and with passion. In my young life, I have not been welcome to use my voice in this way. I didn't have those opportunities as a child to yell to the world about what I cared about. Have you? I'm curious to know how much of this is cultural. Imagine having that fresh energy in our spaces. Experiencing that exhibit truly lit a fire in my soul. If a child starts advocating and using their voices that early, I have the utmost faith in them taking the reins on building the world that they will be living in. Their world. Isn't that what we want? If we take on this challenge, this mission, we will gain so much. Young people are so good at staying up to date with current trends, happenings, and the world, whether it be through social media or the internet. This is very valuable in keeping up with the times. Young people are the times. This connection and empowerment will lead to things like higher engagement, retention, which is something that people often care about. We are trying to build our future every day. Our students, our learners, our young people, they are a part of that. They are the ones who are going to be living with the outcomes of any decision we make today. So how do we do this? How do we build a leadership circle that reflects the learners that we serve? How do we get more students and young people in decision-making spaces? How do we ensure that they know how they can contribute? 12 weeks ago, Dr. Christy Ford, one of our lovely conference hosts, invited me to her Teach and Learn podcast, where we had a great conversation about elevating student voice. I can get pretty passionate on this topic, but I took some time after it aired and I noticed some themes that emerged in that conversation. Here they are: intention, invitation, inclusion. Remember that experience that I shared from my time at Apple when I had no idea how to contribute during meetings? That bridge from one person to the next is so important. If you are willing to invite this missing demographic to the table, think about your goals and be deliberate with those actions. Let new members of your team know how they can contribute, especially when they're unfamiliar with the structure and the dynamic of the group. This is most likely a room full of mentors. This dynamic won't be new to you. I'm sure you already have the tools to do this. Next one, invitation. Extending that invitation. We can't bridge the gap without an openness to new participants, new people in your circle. I know this talk is about including young people when making decisions that affect experiences, but this could definitely apply to other learners too. Look at your demographics. Whose voices are missing? Who needs to be there? It might be young people, yes, but there are others that definitely should be considered. In the article that I referenced earlier in my talk, the researchers found that 75% of millennials believe that organizations are focused on their own good rather than improving and benefiting society. And as a socially driven generation, they find that to be disappointing. But it does not have to be that way. I'm excited to say that I've definitely seen some promising things happening when it comes to this topic. I've both researched and experienced networks and organizations that invite learners to the table, that live and breathe all parts of DEI. Intentional Futures is an organization that I've grown to have a lot of respect for. They are a learning-centered organization that uses a very human-centered approach to define problems, develop solutions, and communicate really meaningful missions. In 2021, they partnered with Every Learner Everywhere to bring a student fellowship to life. This fellowship allowed me to truly step into the realm of higher education and realize the gaps in the areas of opportunity. They have many resources on their website centered around engaging and really promoting an equity-centered experience. The next one I want to name, Student Voice. This is an organization that positions students as storytellers, organizers, advocates, so they can drive just student-centered solutions to their own inequities. These are a few, but I know there's more. I would love to know more. I want to build a world in which the spaces that we enter are just as diverse as the populations that we serve. I want to build critical thinkers earlier so that they are trusted enough to contribute to this world. I want to know many organizations that live and breathe DEI, and it's reflected in their leadership circle. Then we can begin to truly say that we built something together. In today's talk, I invited you all on a mission, and we talked about some observations in leadership and diversity and what we stand to gain from a mission completion. You can probably tell I feel very strongly about this topic, but I cannot do this alone. Remember, you're on this mission with me. So what can we do to drive things forward? I want to know what you're seeing in your workplaces. Can y'all share with me programs or initiatives that you or your team are leading to build that bridge or to give learners and young people ladders to reach higher levels, to use their voices to make decisions? In my limited experience, I've seen a few promising things, yes, but I would love to hear more. I also challenge you to pass the mic to one new voice, completely different from the ones already in your circle, and see how that shifts the energy or the dynamic of your group. Spreading the word, our networks are bigger than we think. I want you to encourage your colleagues to try this with their own spaces, their own programs. I'd love to come back to Fusion next year and talk to y'all about the progress you've seen in the year. This is not a one-man mission at all. The best way to do this is together, and we cannot forget who we do it all for. So thank you for being here, for sharing this space with me. If you want to continue this mission with me, feel free to scan this QR code to connect and share this information. And I really do appreciate you all being here. Thank you. Safe travels back home.